Real Reds fans still exists in some form or another. So we're here to talk about the baseball that isn't, the baseball yet to come. So tonight, at least starting out, I'm Jeff.
I'm Tom.
I'm Chris.
Yeah. So we have Chris, who is, we'll introduce him in a second. We're minus Kim tonight. John might be joining us. I don't think Kim will pop in, but he has the Zoom invite. So we are doing this coronavirus style. We are using Zoom. We're all sitting in our own homes doing this. And so this is the Thrill Reds Fans podcast. And I'm in Studio 82 down the street from our good friends at Dean's in the heart of Cedarville. Tom and Chris are on the other side of town, not about the same, well, a little farther away from the center of town. Remember Cedarville, the famous birthplace and final resting place of Reds pitching legend Bumpus Jones, who never had to miss a season for anything like this back in 1892. Yep. He was out of baseball by the time the Spanish flu hit, so he didn't have to deal with this. So, but here we are, guys. It's been a while. No baseball. What's it? Let me welcome Chris here. Chris is a friend of ours here in town, and he is, sorry to say, not a Reds fan.
Oh, well.
He is a – who are you a fan of, Chris? I don't even want to say the words.
Well, you know, it's tough. It's been rough the last few years, but I'm a Pirates fan.
No, we're glad to have you. So we trade barbs now and then, of course. Not as violent as Amir Garrett and Yasiel Puig and the Pirates trade barbs, but we have a good time. So we just thought we'd have a little chat tonight, talk about baseball, what we miss, and a little bit about what they're talking about happening possibly here with these strange divisions if they get started at some point. So today is April 16th. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
And so there's some news about Ohio and the U.S., the president and the governor are talking about starting to open things up a little bit starting May 1st, make some changes to what we've been living through. But here we are, no baseball. So what's it been like, Chris? No baseball. Is this weird? How weird is this been?
It's really weird. You know, for me, I've got three boys, and I've been involved with some form or fashion of baseball for the past 20 odd years. And then you throw in my job, I work at a Division II institution in the athletic department, and we typically have baseball this time of year. Well, the best you can do with baseball in April in Ohio. So for me not to hear the crack of a bat or the pop of a mitt, it's been challenging, especially just not seeing the boys out there doing it. It's been tough. Been outside with one of my boys throwing a little bit and taking some ground balls on the asphalt, but it's just not the same.
No, it's not. It's not. And Tom, your boy was that played baseball. He's long gone from playing baseball at that age. Can you imagine what it'd be like if your son was still like the age of a couple of Chris's kids and still involved in playing baseball?
Especially if it was late in their career, whether it's college or high school, to be building up and work out and do everything you need to do to get ready for the season. In fact, to start the season, right, Chris? I mean, I guess, they probably started in February.
Yeah.
At the college level.
Yeah. Well, college starts in January. Their first in-season practice starts
actually meant games, though.
Oh, games. That's right. Well, they try to play games in February, but then they take a big long spring trip, and we actually played some games early. Took our spring trip to Florida, and I think we got 16 games in. I think total, maybe not quite that many. I'd have to back look at our record, and our team was doing fairly well. And then we got back, and the first game after the spring trip was canceled, 6 hours before the game was to start. So
that was the week after spring break. Whenever we got back,
that was the Friday after. We would have got back on Saturday, and then we were to play on the next Friday.
Right. And we did 3 days of classes, and then boom, that fell apart. So
if as an old baseball player, everybody thinks, man, you know what? This year, I'm going to do something special and get drafted. Every single player because that's the way baseball is. I don't know if it's because of movies we watch or whatever. You think a scout's going to watch and see you, and you're going to get drafted. Everybody, I don't even care if you're a starter. You could not be a starter, but you're going to think, the first baseman's going to get hurt, and I'm going to go in, and they won't be able to take me out, and I'm going to get drafted. So and then the whole year's shot had to be really tough. So and I don't know, as a guy that, baseball was part of my life for my first 30 years, either playing or coaching. And I don't know about you, Chris, and maybe you too, Jeff, but in the spring, there's some days you walk outside and I don't know, you smell the grass and it's the way the weather is. And it just makes you think about being on the baseball field. For me, it does. I just get that feeling,
Yeah, I've coached youth baseball, with my boys, like I said, for 20 years. And one thing I always try to tell the guys on the team or the young men on the team was, this is what your youth's all about. I vividly remember as a kid, some of my fondest memories was in the springtime, dodging mud puddles and playing baseball. And it's just something.
Also the coldest I've ever been in my life too.
Yeah.
Baseball games.
That's right. I grew up in just a couple hours north of Pittsburgh, and so it was even colder up there.
Yes, I've covered baseball games with snow coming down.
Yeah, me too.
In Virginia, even.
Yeah.
I remember a game one night. It was so cold, you couldn't feel anything, and there was snowflakes coming down. I'm like, it was a high school game being played under the lights, because I don't know why. And it was, it was 30 degrees out, so.
You got to get the games in, man.
You got to get them in. Got to get them in. And so, yeah, that's the thing. It lost in all. I'm glad you guys sort of talked about that first, because about the kids, and the kids aren't getting to play, and because all the media attention is all around Major League Baseball mostly. They're not playing, but it's still, what's everybody say? It's a kid's game, right? They're grown men playing a kid's game. And these kids aren't getting to play. They're not even like, I can remember a lot of my memories as a kid playing baseball was going to in our neighborhood, there was a vacant lot, it was like, houses have been built on it since, but it was a long rectangle, and we would go there and play, and right field was always closed because it was close to you didn't take much more than a pop fly to get to the street, So you couldn't hit the ball to right field. You had to play everything to left or center. Kids aren't even getting to do that, as far as I know. Maybe there are some places, maybe kids are doing it.
For others, maybe, right? That's about it.
A few, but that's not happening. That type of stuff's not happening. The old Sandlot stuff. You guys have, probably seen that movie, The Sandlot.
I don't think they do it anymore, Jeff. I think they just play Xbox instead.
Well, I didn't raise sons, and we didn't have an Xbox, so I can't attest to that. So I'm sure you guys have seen more video game playing than I have, but
that's probably where my boys are right now.
Well, it's pretty cold here today. It actually got in the high 40s. Got pretty nice, but not so much now. So
Jeff, another thing I really miss. You were talking about Major League Baseball. Is I went to a lot of the Reds opening days. Jeff, you went with me once. You and Kelly. Mm-hmm. And went the last few years, and we were going again this year.
You and Thomas were going to go?
We were going again. I took the day off, and I was glad. I've been buying tickets there the last few years. I didn't with you. We bought ours ahead of time, Jeff. But,
yeah, I think so. We had them. So
we've been buying it from scalpers the last few years. I'm glad I was going to do that again this year, because otherwise I've been stuck with tickets, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But so when I found out, everything was canceled, I still kept my day off. I just thought, I'll just still take the day off. So I never use all my vacation days. And here I was here. It was an absolute, do you guys remember what day it was? It was perfect weather. It was like 70 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't a cloud in the sky. And the whole day, all I could think about was what it would have been like to be there for the parade and the game and the packed. How many times do you go to a stadium where every seat is taken and standing room only for baseball?
Not too often.
So I really missed it on that day. That's for sure.
This whole April has actually been really good for weather, despite the snow we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
out of the
like
blue.
5 minutes.
Yeah, but the weather has been really good. we wouldn't have had the issues we've seen in the past in terms of getting games in this April.
No, it's too bad. So, we've talked about, what it's like kids and we miss it and everything. I'm used to flipping on the TV every evening and just having it on, whether I watch it really closely or not. Sometimes I sit there and watch pretty closely. Sometimes I'm doing something else. Sort of that background noise that we're used to, in the car. You flip it on in the car or whatever, and it's just on. It's just a part.
This would have been the first year without Marty.
Too. Huh?
This would have been the first year without Marty.
Yeah,
on the radio.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just like a part of your day every day a little bit. When especially if I know, Chris, I don't know if you get to watch many Pirates games, but.
Yeah, I subscribe to the MLB package, so that's pretty much every night. Well, it'll be on the TV, and we're doing other things, or we're actually watching the game, and so it's been we miss it. We've been tuning into Netflix now instead of Major League Baseball.
No,
don't you think that's why they call this the pastime? It's because it's just part of your life for longer than any other season. Although I feel like the NBA is getting close. It's just part of your conversation, part of your life.
Yeah, baseball's different. If you remember back to 9/11 and the healing that baseball brought after that disaster, I think we're going to see the same type of thing if we can get this thing started. We've seen rumors of Major League Baseball starting, and Jeff's alluded to the different divisions. But I think that's part of the healing process. I think that whether it's baseball or basketball or whatever it is, I'd like to see it be baseball. I think that it'll just be fun just to get it on the TV. And watching. Well, I guess you wouldn't be watching Yasiel. I was going to say Yasiel Puig for you guys, but
no, he's not.
Moved on.
No. Hey, did you guys hear that they're talking about doing it where all the teams are in Arizona? Did you read that?
I called that up here. That's the thing, because they can get to try to get started, before they can have people in stadiums and everything, and. So they would call it they were going to do a grapefruit league and a cactus league, and the Reds, there's 3 divisions in each. The Reds would be in the Cactus League West with the Dodgers, White Sox, Indians, and Angels. The Pirates would be in the Grapefruit North with the Yankees. Good luck with that.
Well, we got the Dodgers.
We got the Dodgers, yeah. Yeah, we do. I mean, Yankees, Phillies, Blue Jays, and Tigers. You got the Tigers to beat up on, but other than that, maybe not. So that, that's what they want to try to do. I haven't seen anything about dates when that might happen that I recall. Have you guys seen anything on possible dates? It's just at some point when they can sort of do this, they would get the season started that way. I don't know how long they would do that for. Who knows? It might have to go all the way to the end of the season. That's hard to say. Yeah, that's the thing. It's all speculation. But I mean, it's weird.
So I don't understand.
But at least we'd have baseball to watch every night if they get it started.
But I don't understand it. Why would they not keep the national? Why wouldn't they just have the season as normal, but just have everybody play locally? Why are they switching up who plays who? I don't get it.
Well, it's the teams that train in Florida or in the Grapefruit, the teams that train.
But they don't have to do that, do they?
Well, they'd have to fly back and forth from Arizona to Florida a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are stadiums in Arizona that would house enough teams.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, kind of like what Dana White is doing with the MMA and buying a island somewhere and shipping all his fighters there. And
Dana White's made more money than anybody should almost be allowed to make.
But I mean, you can do the same thing with baseball, like Tom's saying.
Yeah, have American League in Florida, National League in Arizona.
Yeah, why go? Yeah, why have to go to your place? Because that's the thing; they're going to play in their own parks, basically.
Yeah, but is that a big deal?
I don't know if that's a big deal or not. Maybe logistically it matters, but I don't know. I don't know. But that's what they're saying. But
isn't there a risk too of the players catching it from each other?
Yeah, but they're gonna everybody that works there is going to get tested constantly. They're gonna. They're going to check your temperature every day. They're going to, who knows what all they're going to do to make sure. And they're going to basically be sequestered or quarantined to where they're not interacting with anybody else, so that if it's not there, it can't get in. So, you'll have some stadium workers and players and coaches and broadcasters and technical people to run the scoreboards and the TV show and the radio. And, it really cut down on travel. That's for sure.
Yeah. Which isn't the issue, right? Travel's not really the deal, is it? They have private planes.
Yeah, they have private planes. It's not a big deal to travel, but.
Yeah, I'm reading here on CBS that actually Arizona and Florida is open for gatherings of upward of 100 people. So you could technically do it right now in Arizona and Florida.
Yeah. What does the 100 count? Does that count is that 100 fans, or does that count everybody, including?
I think that's everybody. So you couldn't do it in front of fans, but you could do it and just have the teams and personnel there.
Right. Well, there's some WWE's going to take place in Florida event because it got deemed in a.
I'd be for it if they did the normal schedule. I don't know about shaking up and having to play the Dodgers every third series.
Well, they would play the teams in the other. There's 3 divisions in Arizona, so they would play the Cubs. So they would play. They wouldn't just play the teams in their division. They would play the teams in the other 2 divisions too. So half of Major League Baseball would be in Arizona. So they would play all those teams.
And so would they play it to the point of a World Series?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any interleague play, so to speak. So the World Series would be, whoever wins the grapefruit and whoever wins the cactus. So the Reds conceivably, like, the Reds could play the Braves in the World Series, which would be weird, right? Or the Reds could play the Cardinals in the World Series, 2 teams from the same division. And there's a lot of ways that teams from the same normal divisions could play each other in the World Series. That would be bizarre, but we'd never forget it. So
I would like to propose
what do you guys think about that?
I'd like to propose a realignment division of the Pirates, the Marlins, the Orioles, and the Tigers.
That's great.
You might have a chance. Bring back Doug Drabeck and Bobby Bonilla, and you'll win that division real easy.
Yeah, give us Bonds too.
You want Bonds too?
Before or after the roids?
Well, that was pre-roids. Oh my! So, Tom, if and when the Reds do play, regardless of division setup or whatever this is, do we have a winning ball club?
Are we going to have a winning season?
That's the question.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing that we probably say every year is if they're healthy, right?
Yeah.
If they're healthy. Actually, I don't think the last few years I would have said even if they were healthy, they would have had a winning season. I think this year, if they're healthy, they're above 500. I really think so this year.
I do too. If they're healthy. With the additions that they made, Castellanos, Moustakas, if some of the younger guys, a Winker or somebody like that, or a couple of other guys continue to develop and become better players, Senzel, whatever, take your pick of younger guys you can name.
Votto has just a normal year, right?
Yeah, Votto bounces back somewhat. He doesn't have to be a MVP caliber, but he's got to be a scary hitter in a lineup that the other team feels like can hurt him. And I don't think last year it got to the point where you weren't too afraid to pitch to Joey Votto.
Yeah, and I felt like they had a real shot at being a wild card this year.
Yeah, I did too. And a lot of projections and people making this picks and stuff, we're looking at them as a first or second type team in that division, very possibly. So, when you make big free agent signings and you bring in some guys and make a splash, it always boosts your profile and people get a little bit excited about you. You know how that goes.
Sure.
And then when teams trade away their best player, which maybe Pittsburgh might have done that
once, twice.
What is the deal, Chris?
Then you're like, then you're throwing them to the dogs. It's like that team's no good, So
I remember watching the World Series and going through and thinking that guy was a Pirate. That guy was a Pirate. That guy was a Pirate. Like the pitching staff, we would have had a solid pitching staff.
So
Garrett Cole and
Garrett
Charlie
Cole.
Morton.
Yeah,
Man.
I know. You feel like
What's going on
they're a
there?
AAA team for the rest of the majors sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's what it seems like the last few years. And there's been some poor trades for the Pirates. I mean, you think of the Chris Archer trade.
Yeah.
That was a struggle that threw. I mean, looks like the two guys that went to Florida in that trade are going to be all-stars, perennial all-stars. So
which guys for that?
You asked me too quick. It was the pitcher, and the outfielder was. Oh shoot! You asked me too quick.
Well, but you
Tyler Glasnow was the pitcher who ended up pitching really well.
He's a good young pitcher.
Well,
They've brought guys up. They've drafted well. You can't.
Austin Meadows was the center fielder. I think he ended up hitting over 30 home runs for the Rays.
For the Rays last year.
Yeah,
he had a good season. So, every team's had their share of that, but you're right. It feels like the Pirates are constantly doing it. Somebody gets good, they don't want to pay for them. They let them go. So, new manager this year.
Yeah, we were really excited about the new manager. Seems like a pretty stand-up guy. Although I think Clint Hurdle took some undeserved berating by a lot of people. I feel like he's a good man, and he was trying to do the right thing. He's an old school baseball guy, so old school baseball guys have a different way of doing things.
Chris, how can you defend Clint Hurdle? Come on, man. Are you kidding me?
Well, I feel like I need to. I mean, I know I'm talking to Reds fans, and we can go back to where this thing got started between the Reds and the Pirates. And when you throw fastballs at a perennial all-star MVP candidate, you throw at his head. That doesn't go well.
You talking about McCutchen?
McCutchen.
Who threw at him?
Well, it was Aroldis Chapman.
Oh, okay.
And
you're going all the way back to that.
Oh, that's how it all started. And then it's just one chip after the other and one retaliation after the other. And when you have an old school baseball guy like Clint Hurdle, there's going to be retaliation. And
absolutely.
I mean, that's going to be tit for tat. And you throw at my guy, I'm going to throw at your guy. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's who you have in a guy like Clint Hurdle. And I think there's other managers in baseball out there that are made of the same fabric. It's not just Clint, but
Dusty's now with the Astros. He's probably another old school guy, right?
Yeah,
right. Dusty Baker.
It's interesting.
Not many left.
It's interesting. Dusty, the Astros have been a forward-thinking team, analytic wise and everything, and a lot of the criticism Dusty got was for being old school. And now he's managing the Astros. So that's either Dusty is thinking differently, or that was like, let's hire a guy. We need to hire a very highly respected manager to come in here after this debacle. So
I think that's what it is. Yeah, it has to be that.
Yeah. Because that was just such a black eye for the Astros. So
speaking of retaliation for the Houston Astros this year, how much are we going to see? I
don't know. I mean, this whole thing we're going through right now may soften that a little bit, but I think it's very, very possible that there's going to be they're going to get booed, and so forth.
Well, they tracked it in spring training. They were hit more than anyone else in spring training.
People were hitting them.
That. Oh yeah.
That is. Yeah, I think this COVID experience is probably the best thing that can happen to the Astros.
Oh yeah, it's taking them off the front page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys know
thought it was terrible what they did. I don't think I was as outraged as. I mean, there are things to get outraged about. It's baseball. I thought it was wrong, but I kind of hope it isn't a big deal. Just sort of is something for a week, and then we just forget about it. That would be nice to just not have to deal with it, but it'll be interesting. So,
well, Pete Rose had a hard time with it, didn't he? Did you read those quotes?
What remind me what he said?
Well, he's comparing it to what he did, right? He cheated on baseball.
Oh,
these guys cheated on baseball.
Yeah. Well,
how come they're not getting the same punishment?
Well, Pete, it's a little bit different. That's typical Pete. You know, I loved Pete as a player. I mean, as purely as a baseball player, if you just don't put anything else in the equation, like Pete's my favorite player of all time. I mean, I grew up on Pete Rose, but all the other stuff obviously sullies all that and so forth. So if you ask me, who's your favorite baseball player of all time, I really can't say, because the guy who was, how can you say? That's a hard thing to say now. But
you need to switch to Johnny Bench like me.
But I think
switch to Johnny Bench.
But I think that's typical Pete, to deflect and to like try to make excuses and everything else for his own behavior and try to make himself not look so bad by comparing himself to somebody else who obviously broke the rules as well. So
yeah, I really believe if Pete would have from the beginning fell on his sword and been contrite about what he did, and not lie, because he lied at first, right? And then he came out and said he lied. If he would have went that route, I think he'd be in the Hall of Fame today.
And be honest, what Pete did was worse. I mean, I think, in my opinion, if you're going to rank the sins, I think Pete's is worse. So
he's a manager betting on games, right? You're right. That's pretty bad.
He never bet on his team to lose, right?
That's what he says.
That's what he says. But does that? I mean, it's hard to believe the guy. You know,
right?
It's hard to believe him.
Because he already lied once. So,
I mean, when I was a kid going to games, that's the guy I wanted to see the most. It's the guy I wanted to see the most, and there were plenty of guys to see. I mean, Chris, you grew up. There were a lot of great Pirates in your.
Yeah.
When you were growing up too. I mean, you know what that's like. There's a bunch of great players on the team. That late 70s, mid 70s, or early 70s, into the early 80s Pirates.
Yep.
Until Parker was gone.
Yeah.
All through there.
Willie Stargell
and
Bill Matlock.
Bill Madlock.
I liked Madlock. He was.
I did too.
Kent DeColvey.
Oh yeah.
Kent DeColvey, loved him.
Jerry Royce.
Yeah.
Kent DeColvey's a Cincinnati guy, right?
Huh? DeColvey
was a Cincinnati guy.
I think he grew up in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Cincinnati guys in the majors.
Yeah, he still does. DeColvey still does some broadcasting for the Pirates.
Does he?
Hey,
ugly guy. Really ugly.
He's not pretty.
No. Chris, have you seen the documentary on the Cobra?
I don't think I have.
It's on. I think MLB is running it. It's a story. It's Dave Parker's story.
Right. And
he's got Parkinson's real bad.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good piece. You should the word Cobra is in it. I'm trying to think of the actual name of it, but it came out this past year.
It's funny. They just on my Twitter feed, it came up a throw. I don't even remember what year it was. A throw that Parker made in the All-Star game from right field and got someone out at home.
Yeah.
It was just tremendous.
That. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Yeah.
It's called The Cobra at Twilight.
Oh, wow.
Will Dave Parker ever get the recognition he deserves? Talking about being snubbed by the Hall of Fame. I think it's called it's MLB Network documentary, The Cobra at Twilight. You should what do you use for television?
Spectrum.
So you get MLB on there?
Well, I have the MLB package. I wonder if I can see it through there.
Yeah, they might have all that stuff on there. You should look it up. It's really good. Of course, that's the thing we have in common is Dave Parker. So, I thought Parker should have won an MVP the one year when I think Willie McGee won it with the Reds. I always thought he should have won it, and I think he's a Hall of Fame guy. I mean,
I don't think there's any doubt.
For a few years there.
Well, obviously there is. He didn't make it.
Yeah, I know. But he was the best player in baseball. He was the most feared hitter in baseball for 4 or 5 seasons. Yeah. And one time I looked him up on Baseball Reference. He was like, before I say that, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but in the MVP voting, of course he won.
Yeah.
He won one. But if you look down his list, he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times he was top 10 in MVP voting. He was 20th one other time, 11th, and 16th another time. I mean, when he was 34 with the Reds, he was second. And when he was 35 with the Reds, he was 5th in MVP voting in 85,
yeah, I mean,
86.
He came in 11th in the MVP voting when he was 38 years old with
38
with
years
the A's.
old playing for the A's, yeah.
That's amazing.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think he's I just think he's overlooked, but I mean, he doesn't have the huge career WAR number, it's 40.1. And so in this day and age of WAR and all that analytics, it doesn't help him. It's not going to help him, but man,
His career 290 hitter.
There's a lot of good things in his career. 7-time All-Star, two batting titles, anyway, I wish I love if he could get there, but I don't know how much longer he's got because the Parkinson's is pretty bad.
Chris,
I enjoy watching that.
Chris, his average 11 years with Pittsburgh was 305.
Yeah, I'm looking at those stats amazing. Now. I mean, twice hit over 40 home runs with the Pirates.
Yeah. Well, there was those drug trials before he left Pittsburgh, and I think that hurt him too with the media and everything else because he was involved in some of that. So no, that didn't help him. But anyway.
But the people in Pittsburgh still love him. I mean, it's not like that really tarnished his career at all in Pittsburgh.
No. We loved him here. I mean, he came home. He came home to Cincinnati where he grew up and had put together some really good seasons. And those were when Pete came back as manager. So he played for Pete, and they kept finishing second every year. That was the thing. They finished second every year, and then had a bad year. They had a worse year in '89 when everything fell apart. And then, of course, Piniella came in '90 and they won the World Series. But
here's interesting. He played 132 games as a 40-year-old baseball player.
Yeah,
played 132 games.
Wow.
Exactly.
Did you see how many times he was in the postseason? He was in the postseason for 2 years with the A's too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was on those good A's teams. Some of those good Oakland A's teams. So.
Was that with the Bash brothers? That was about that time.
Yeah, he played with those guys. 88,
89. Yeah.
Those were the years. 88, they lost. Didn't they? The A's won the world. Lost in 88 to the Dodgers. Beat the Giants the next year, and then the Reds beat them in 90. So. Yeah, he was on the 88 and 89 teams, and then he went to Milwaukee, and had a good season too. So
he won 2 World Series titles.
Won a Silver Slugger
with the Pirates in '79, and then 10 years later with Oakland.
Yeah.
How many people have won 2 World Series 10 years apart?
I don't know, Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
And he won all the ones in between too. But you're right.
A home run in the World Series in both times.
Yeah.
Or second time.
Yeah. So, well, back to the Reds, Tom. We should talk about that just a little more. Since we last talked, Kim and I did a show, and I think Moustakas was already there, and so we haven't heard from you about that. That's the 2 big things. Moustakas and Castellanos, I think, are the 2 big gets for them. What are your thoughts on those 2 guys?
Well, I'll tell you, we're wondering what they would do at second base. Remember that?
Sure.
We're wondering how things would work out, and we didn't know if maybe they moved Senzel back there or how they would move things around. So I think Moustakas was much better than we expected. I think I would have expected a shortstop before a second baseman, Jeff, but I think that's just a fantastic pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And then, one thing you didn't talk about besides Castellanos is, what do you think about Shogo in the outfield?
Oh, that's true.
That's going to be interesting to see as well.
Yeah.
We just don't know how these Japanese guys are going to translate over to the majors,
Well, it's kind of like a guy coming out from AAA. What's he going to do, right? Yeah. I mean, Japan ball is sort of considered for like quadruple A, instead of it's sort of an in-between. And he does have a long track record over there. It's not like he had one good year. He's a young guy there thinking he'll make it. But I think the outfield is crowded, but that doesn't bother me. May the best men.
No, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah, and may the best men win and play the most. There's a lot of good competition out there. And Castellanos is a doubles machine. He brings a lot of power to the lineup, and Shogo can give him a leadoff guy that can get on base. And if he
Senzel will be better not in the leadoff too.
I do. I think so. Take some pressure off, move him down the lineup a little bit. I think you're right. So yeah, you're looking at. I think Castellanos is pretty much an everyday guy in right. I think Shogo's going to play a whole lot. I think if Winker hits, especially if Winker can begin to hit left-handers better, he can play a whole lot. I think those are the three guys that might get the most at bats, if I had to guess. And then I think the infield's pretty set. I mean, I think we're fine with the Galvis at shortstop. You always try to get the best guy you can. There was all this Lindor talk, and I never really believed that would happen, and so forth. But nobody wins with like all-stars at every position, right? It just doesn't happen,
right?
So you always have a couple guys, but at least he can hit some home runs, and so maybe he hits a few home runs in key situations that help you win 3 or 4 games that you wouldn't have won otherwise, and play good shortstop, and we got a rotation at catcher that won't be so bad. And I really think they're going to roll with Barnhart and Casale for another year or two, because I think Tyler Stevenson is coming, and I think he's got a chance to, he's a prospect, and I know he hadn't proven anything at the major league level, but he's a guy that will deserve a chance and could be really good. So,
and here's the thing, Jeff, if something would happen in the outfield and there'd be some injuries, they can always bring Scott Schebler back.
Oh, my man. I'm a Shebs. I love Shebs. Do you know about this, Chris?
I know you do.
Well, the only guy that I'd like to see in your outfield is Michael Lorenzen. Throw him out there.
Yeah, the dude can play some center field. He can play
lift some weights too, man.
Well, I
follow him on Instagram. The guy's got some workouts.
Yeah, the Schebler story is old. Red's Caravan one year, I was covering it for the Dayton paper, and they were at the Air Force Museum, and Shebs came in, and it was the year he had played a little bit the year before, and then he kind of had the job coming into that year. So the year he hit like 20 some homers, or 30 maybe, I can't remember. But anyway, so I got to interview him, and he was real nice, man. I enjoyed talking to him. And then they were like hauling him away from us to go up to the stage where they were going to talk to the fans, and so he let me walk all the way through the Air Force Museum, which was like a 5-minute walk to where they were going, and keep asking him questions.
Man crush, Chris.
So, man crush begun. And so I would text with these guys when Shebs would hit a home run. I'd just text a bunch of hearts, and we'd have a good time with that. So I do like that guy, but I want the best players on the field. But if guys get hurt, he's a guy who's played in the major leagues, can come up and fill a hole for you.
I think he's out of baseball. I think he got released.
Well, that's true. He got DFA, but I don't know if anybody picked him up. I can't remember this. I don't know what the status is. They could, that is, you get DFA.
If he has time,
if you clear waivers,
maybe he can get on the show with us.
Yeah, that's true. I could get him on the show. Yeah, he could be our expert. He could break down film for us.
Although I think maybe Kim and I would have to lead because you'd probably be so starstruck you couldn't speak.
I've interviewed more famous people than Scott Schebler.
I've interviewed more famous people.
Not a lot. I'm no big-time journalist by any means. Trust me.
You're a big-time journalist. Don't put yourself down.
Not really. Not compared to a lot of guys. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you this. So Starling Marte got traded.
Sure did.
My reference earlier to their trading their best player, right? Was that?
Yeah, that was it.
So,
honestly, that trade
is Corey Dickerson gone too?
Yeah, we traded him mid-season last year. He went to the Phillies and did fairly well with the Phillies.
So what do you think of the Marte trade? Of
course he did.
Pay off down the stretch.
Yeah, of course he did. You go what you get out of the hole in Pittsburgh, and you bat 300 and drop bombs about every other night. That's what he did for about a month and a half. Got reunited with McCutcheon in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I think that trade is one of those trades that you have to make. No one likes it. We got two really young players back in that trade who have high ceilings.
Yeah.
But when you're picking up single A guys, there's also the floor that you don't know if they're ever going to reach that potential. So, and you look at the Pirates outfield now. They signed a guy from the Dodgers, I believe he came from, or no, he came from one of the California teams. Jared Dyson, speedster.
He was a Diamondback.
Diamondback, yeah.
Yeah,
So he's a speedster. So, I mean, we still have Gregory Polanco in the outfield. We still have Brian Reynolds, who everyone's real high on. He was one guy we got in a trade. That was on the Garrett Cole trade, I believe. Him and Trevor Williams and maybe not even Trevor Williams. It was Joe Musgrove in that trade. So, yeah, the outfield is I don't know if we're gonna have any all-stars in the outfield. Well, Polanco could be. I mean, he's got the talent. He's just got to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be a 5-tool guy. But
so who they got around the infield this year?
You know, they've got a young shortstop, Kevin Newman, who played well the second half of the season last year. Third base, we've got a placeholder in Colin Moran, who's got the best beard in Major League Baseball. He's a placeholder for a rookie that may crack the major leagues this year, maybe another year. Kebron Hayes. We were talking a little bit beforehand about his dad. Charlie Hayes was a former Pirate. First base, I mean, could have our only all-star right there at first base in Josh Bell. The dude just mashes.
Yeah.
Second base, we've got some options. You know, you go with a steady hand Adam Frazier, who's got one of the prettiest swings in baseball, but you got to hit the ball with that. So,
yeah.
You know, back to Josh Bell. He's a Reds basher too. I remember he killed the Reds in the games.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he killed the Reds, and then someone took a cheap shot at him and created a
Here we go.
Here we go. It's a good thing.
Then Amir Garrett and Yasiel Puig lost their ever-loving minds.
Yeah,
Jeff, when you lose a lot, you say stuff like that.
You got to grab onto something
or something like that. I always say losers complain about the umps.
Because when the Pirates went in the tank last year, I mean, they didn't hold back.
Oh, we went in the tank. It was bad.
We
couldn't
pitch. Hey, brother, we've been there, Chris. We have been there, brother.
We have. Here we are talking trash against the Pirates, and we got
you see
trash against anybody.
You see a fight like that get started, and you think the people who start it want to win and spark their team to something bigger. I'm not sure we win that fight. I mean, if you let those guys go at it, I'm not sure the Pirates have much in the tank in a fight against the Reds. Well, at least last year's Reds.
Who wants to take on Garrett? Who wants to take on Puig? I mean,
and we lost our crazy guy. I mean, Sean Rodriguez is gone. We don't have guys beating up coolers anymore. So I don't know if you remember that guy, Sean Rodriguez.
I remember that name. Well, I think, Bell I like the Newman kid, Reynolds. Those are probably the three guys that jump out to me that could have good seasons for the Pirates. I mean, and they got some decent young pitchers, but you know how that is. The Reds thought we thought we had decent young pitchers for a few years, and we just never did. So we finally had to go out and buy some and sign some and so forth and so on. So
yeah, it's too bad that Talion hurt his elbow. He's by far their best pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
He hopefully he returns from that. We got Mitch Keller, who looked good in innings and then looked terrible in other innings last year as a rookie. So I mean, there's some guys there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we'll see what happens this year. I mean, we get 100 games played. I don't know how many games we're going to play, but it is sounding more and more promising that there's going to be some level of baseball, some amount of baseball played, and that's better than none. I mean, it'd been terrible to trade for Trevor Bauer and not get a full season, anything out of him.
Right.
Is he in the last year of his contract this year with you guys?
Yeah. That was the whole thing about that deal was got him last year and then going to have him for another year. And is he the one who said he wants to sign 1-year deals?
1-year deals. That's what he said.
He never wants to sign more than a 1-year deal. But
he's an interesting guy.
He's a different bird.
Until somebody offers him a 5-year deal and he'll jump on it.
For like $200 million, yeah.
Until the Yankees come calling next year.
Nobody's
right.
Going to,
exactly.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. That's famous last words, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think whenever they get it rolling, Castillo, Gray, Bauer, if Bauer pitches like he's pitched some he doesn't have to be Cy Young level. He just has to be, a really good pitcher.
Castillo has to be Castillo.
Yeah, those three guys at the top, and then if the bullpen is, good, and bullpen was good last year except for Iglesias blowing saves. If Iglesias doesn't blow so many, he blew a lot of saves. He can't be that.
We need guys just to have normal years. We need Iglesias just to have a normal year.
Yeah.
Votto just to have a normal year. These starters just to have. They don't. They all don't need to be all-star years.
Yeah. And one of the key things too, you always want to get off to a good start, but this is going to be a shorter season. I mean, you cannot start like they did last year and expect to climb out of that. I mean, that's you can't expect that. Now, who was it? What the Nationals had a bad record. They were below 500 right into May last year, and then things turned around, but.
Not as bad as the Reds, though.
Not as bad as the Reds, but you can't expect that. I mean, the Nationals, just because the Nationals did it last year doesn't mean, it may be 10 years before anybody else does that again. That's an unusual season. So that'll be this year you can't afford to start slow. You got to
So when do we think they might start? So we're in April. Obviously, they're not going to go right into it. They're going to have to play some spring training games first.
I think.
So end of May possible?
What you guys have said about Florida and Arizona being a little more open, than other states, they're starting to talk about it. I would think sometime in May is it seems like a distinct possibility. I don't know if it's.
I think maybe they have to expand the rosters to give them more, but maybe they give them more pitchers. Right.
Yeah. I think
that allows them to not have guys go as long.
Didn't they say rosters would be expanded to start?
Did it say that?
But I would hope guys are staying in shape. I mean, they got 2 weeks in spring training, so they got their base there.
Yeah, but throwing the batters, Chris, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the way.
And that's the batters are going to be behind the pitchers. The pitchers can get on a mound and throw. Batters seeing live pitching. Sure. I mean, a pitcher can go to a remote place and throw off a mound and be pretty successful and ready to go. But you can't go to some remote place as a batter and see, 95 with 6 inches of break on it. You can't find someone to mimic that.
Maybe, I mean, I would think they have to have at least 2 weeks of spring training. Don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the right number, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, something like that. And that gives pitchers a chance to face batters 3 times?
Yeah.
Maybe?
3 or 4 times, depending on how many innings you pitch at a time. Yeah. They would have to do some of that. I would think.
Then give them more pitchers and see what happens.
Yeah. So the one thing they're talking about is that financially, huge boon for TV rights holders. You could have a captive audience the entire day. Games in Florida could begin at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You could still have games in prime time for East Coast teams and their fans, and the time slots would permit West Coast teams to play prime time games in Arizona. So that, we're not – I mean, that'd be the worst. The dumb thing would be for the Reds to play every night at 10 o'clock Eastern. I mean, we'd never get – I mean –
Right, that would suck.
You could watch the Pirates every night.
Well, yeah, I could.
No.
I'll come over to your house. Baseball, I'll watch anything.
Actually, I would at this point. I would watch the Pirates at this point.
Yeah, and so.
Put the Pirates and Marlins on. It'd be the top Nielsen rating of the week.
Yeah, but for East Coast teams, Eastern time zone, and even Central time zone teams to play a bunch of 10 o'clock games out there wouldn't make any sense. So for TV, so yeah, it'll be an interesting thing. They still have division winners, wild card winners, and they could add 2 more wild card teams to each league or postseason tournament with all 30 teams. These are other ideas that are being floated. Just because of the shortness of the season, you might expand the playoffs.
The Pirates are making the playoffs.
There's a lot of things up for debate, and who knows where they'll end up with this.
This would be the year to try stuff, right? I mean, if you're going to try stuff.
Well, yeah. What's his name? The commissioner. I can't think of his name. Manfred. You know, he wants to expand the playoffs, and he came out with an announcement about that, and people went bananas over that. I thought that was a terrible idea. I didn't think it was such a bad idea, but I mean, everybody may complain when the NFL expanded playoffs. Well, nobody fusses.
As long as they don't do a 7-game series for every playoff series, that's a little bit too long, I think.
No, I don't think they'll do that.
Would this be the year for the DH in the National League?
Oh,
stop!
Please.
Stop.
You know I'm a DH proponent.
And you know I'm not.
What do you think about the DH, Chris? I need a friend.
It doesn't matter. He's a Pirate fan.
I would not be in the DH camp. I don't think it's as pure of baseball.
That's right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Be complete.
Somebody's got a bunt out there. DH takes the bunt out of the game.
What Jeff wants is like in the NBA, you have guys that just play offense. They only play one side of the court.
It's not
That's what the DH does.
I mean, you know, we want some excitement in the game, and who wants to watch a pitcher walk up there with no chance to get a hit?
The strategy
behind that.
That's strategy of it.
Yeah, that's why I watch. I get, you know, I pace. When they do the double switch, I get up and pace around the room. I can hardly stand the excitement. but you know.
But what about the pinch hitter? The pinch hitter goes away. What is better than a bottom of the ninth pinch hit home run?
Yeah, it happens like once a season.
But that's really exciting baseball.
Yeah, it is. Compared to every
What about
night.
some of the other things they talked about is starting in the 10th inning, having a guy on second base. Remember some of those other rule changes they were talking about?
Yeah, well, they did that.
Don't they do that in college now? They do that in college.
They might do it in
high school. I don't know.
I think they do it in high school. The rule they did put in for this year is the 3-batter limit.
Right.
Unless you end an inning, then you don't have to come back out for the next inning.
Right.
As long as you're within an inning, you have to pitch to at least 3 guys. You can pitch to 1 or 2 and end an inning. I don't think you have to come back out, but you can't.
So the left-handed specialist is done.
The loogie is.
That's right.
The loogie.
There's a whole article on Sports Illustrated about the loogie. It's really interesting that the loogie, since when it ramped up, when it got to be used more often, the time period of the games didn't increase.
No.
So they're saying, what's the purpose then if you're trying to reduce the time of the game and you take the loogie away, but the loogie wasn't the cause of it? Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting article.
Yeah. You know, did you watch any Fox Sports Ohio? Tom did the Reds Rewind of the 75 series. Did you watch any of those? No,
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, well, I've got them. I have YouTube TV now, and I recorded them. They're all.
Did you record it on a VHS tape that you could send?
No, I did not. It's not on VHS. Maybe Beta. You got a Betamax machine? I'll send it to you that. Jeez. I'll play it on my TV, hold my phone up and record it, and I'll text it to you. Anyway, they were just showing the 4 games the Reds won, and I watched the first 3 of them. I've still got Game 7 on there. I haven't watched it yet. But what was different until George Foster came to bat, other than when Foster was batting, it was the pitchers were fast. I mean, Gullett pitched a really great game in Game 3, I think, and won. I think it was Game 3. Pitched great. I mean, and he was just working fast. And all those pitchers were working pretty fast. And they don't work that fast anymore. The only thing that ever slowed anything down was, if you remember, Foster used to step out on pitchers all the time.
Yeah, but batters that don't work fast nowadays.
No,
they get out and they do all of their things.
Foster was the guy that did that then. Nobody else did it very much. Richie Hebner took forever to get set up in the box. If you remember Richie Hebner, the old Pirates, he'd always pull up the back of his shirt. Looked like he had a coat hanger in the back of his shirt. He'd take a while, but Foster would step out all the time, and back in and out, and he'd step in, and then as soon as the pitcher took more than about 7 or 8 seconds, he'd step out. But other than that, it moved faster. Except when he came to bat, it just moved faster. And you're right. I think it is. So the pitch clock, I think, it might be the way to go to really to help. But I mean,
the thing that's good about that is it wouldn't affect any of the records or anything. A pitch clock wouldn't. No. Everything stays in place.
Right. And I think the thing is, if you do a bunch of stuff and you save 5 minutes, big deal.
Right.
It's just, until baseball sort of changes up and it's an hour, you save 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It really doesn't make much difference. And when I go, I don't care if I'm there for 3 hours. I mean, I paid a lot of money to go there, so I don't really want to see an hour and 45-minute game or a 2-hour game. I'd like to spend some time at the ballpark, unless the weather's not nice. But 7 o'clock game on a weeknight, and it's 10:30, and I'm trying to stay awake to watch the end of the game.
I mean, a stadium
that's not
stadium
great.
Or media doesn't care if it goes longer because they make more money from
no, they don't.
Concessions and commercials.
They don't. So anyway, yeah, I don't know what they'll make of it, but I think this 3-pitcher or 3-batter limit thing is weird. I'm not sure I like that rule. It feels like that's messing too much with. You talk about messing with strategy. Of course, it brings in a new strategy, right? You change a rule, you create a new strategy now that you have to think about. So it doesn't really.
I think part of the beauty of
this new strategy. So that's what the DH does. The DH just creates new strategies. It doesn't take away strategies.
So part of the beauty of baseball is the anticipation, the pause, and going through the different scenarios that could happen prior to it happening. And then it happens, that's right. Part of
the swing of the bat, boom, something happens.
So with this new 3-batter limit minimum, can you move a guy to the outfield, bring him in for a batter, move him to the outfield, bring another guy in?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think you have to pitch to 3 guys. It's to cut down on pitching changes, which slow down a game, right? Because you bring in a pitcher, he gets to warm up and all that. So
maybe you could do that, Chris, if you didn't warm the guy up. Maybe they'd let you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you got to warm a guy up. So that was the other thing too that was interesting about watching that 75 series, because Sparky ran pitching staffs back then like they do now. I mean, they called him Captain Hook for a reason.
Right.
He let Gullett go the distance that one night. He was still like
Will McEnany, Raleigh Eastwick, and
right.
Clay
He
Carroll.
Let guys go the distance.
He used those guys a lot.
Bourbon and Carroll and Eastwick,
McEnany,
those 4 guys pitched a lot of innings, had a lot of appearances, and Eastwick was a rookie that year and had like 80 appearances or some crazy.
He was rookie of the year, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if he was rookie of the year, but he was a rookie.
I thought he was.
He might have been. I'd have to look that up, but yeah. So he made, that's what he did, and so that makes people think, oh, the Reds didn't have very good pitching. No, they had good pitching. If you look, they were top part of the league in pitching every year. I've looked, we've talked about that in the past. They weren't like Scherzer and Strasburg type of guys, but Gullett won 15 games that year, and he missed like 2 months of the season because he got hurt. He pitched great that year when he pitched, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, like, talking about if this guy had been healthy all year, he might have won 25 games. So it was interesting just hearing. It's great hearing the old announcers too. I mean, Kurt Gowdy's calling the game, Joe Garagio's calling the game. Brennan, and that year when they were in Cincinnati, they put Brenneman in the TV booth.
Really?
Yeah, and he spent a lot of time in the TV booth. And that was his first year or second year with the Reds. 74 was his first year. And then some guy, Ned, somebody or other for the Red Sox, he was in the booth some too, like when they were at Fenway. So they did a lot. I don't think they really did that much else, but yeah, that was pretty interesting to watch just to see. Yeah, baseball looks a little different now. The speed of the game was, I could definitely tell that there was a difference in just kind of how quickly things moved. It used to move a little more quickly. Go back and watch something. If you ever see a game like that being replayed, it's an interesting thing to see. So anyway, well, we've been on pretty long. You guys got anything else?
No, I mean, yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day.
Yes, it was.
Number 42. Everybody would have been wearing that yesterday. In fact, you know who kind of got that started was Junior when he was with the Reds. He's the one that suggested it to the commissioner. So
was he?
We missed that yesterday. Yep.
I did not know that.
He asked permission to wear his number to commemorate, and the commissioner let him, and then that kind of led to what we now do today.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One thing I've done to help pass the time with all this missing is I subscribe to The Athletic. You guys have probably heard of that website. I don't know if you guys ever been on it, but a guy named, and hopefully he'll put it into a book someday, a guy named Joe Poznansky, who's a baseball writer, he's written for MLB, a lot of people. He was a columnist at the Kansas City Star for years, baseball columnist, from the George Brett days and everything. So he wrote, and he's written some stuff on his blog. Some of these things are on his blog, Joe Poznansky. If you find his blog, some of them might be on there. But he did 100 essays, long form pieces, where he counted down, in his mind, the top 100 players in Major League Baseball and baseball history. And so each one is a story, and I'm at number 21. I'm a little behind. He just finished it up the other day. I'm a little behind. Number 21 happens to be Joe Morgan, so that's the next one I'm going to read. And it's just been as entertaining as you can imagine, because and it's not your typical like biography story of like, here's the guy's whole life and here's all his baseball numbers and everything. It's like stories about guys that you would never know, and reading about old time guys that you maybe heard the name but you didn't know anything about. It's just been amazing to read. Hopefully he'll put it in a book someday. It's just, I mean, some of the stories, some of the Jackie Robinson stories, I don't remember off the top of my head anything, but it was like stuff I hadn't heard before, or like guys you've heard a lot about, know a lot about. It's like you read stuff in there, you're like, wow, I didn't know that. The one on Maddox was really good.
This is a blog. Is that what you said?
Well, he has a blog, and some of these things have been repurposed from his blog, but I think he's written some of them new. But it's on the athletic.com website. So
okay.
Anyway, I think they're still doing it. I can give out free. You can read it for a while for free. I can text you an invite if you want to go on there. But it's just really good. And he's number one guy. He's counted down, and you can begin to think about who's going to be in his top 10. So he finished. Mays was he put Willie Mays first. He had Ruth second. I think he had Bonds third.
Oh wow.
And then he had Aaron fourth.
He had Bonds third. Wow.
Yeah. He had Clemens real high too, And some guys he put at their uniform number. Like he had Mike Schmidt and Frank Robinson tied for 20th because they both wore number 20. If he had them kind of coming in on his list and about the same around there. Like Jackie Robinson was number 42. So he did some of that. Mike Trout was in the top 20 or in the top 25. He had Mike Trout. He was the highest every current player.
Probably the most underrated player in baseball.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody knows he's like the best player, but nobody knows who he is.
Right.
I mean, he is the best player. I mean, his numbers through the age of 27 are ridiculous. Historically, they're compared to anybody or better than anybody. But it was fun because you read all these comments after the story too, and a lot of people would be like, "I can't believe you got this guy rated this low," and he's like, "Get over it, man. It's just somebody's arbitrary 100." The stories was what make it. It was so good. I mean, Bench was 30th. Rose was in there in the top 50 somewhere. Bonds, like I said, was up there. Who else from the Pirates would be in that? Clemente. Oh, the Clemente story was really good. I don't know if any other Pirates were in there. I don't think Stargell was. He's a Hall of Famer, but I don't know these top 100,
Right.
But he said when he first started, he said, my top 30, I feel pretty good about how I rank my top 30. After that, he says, I change day to day where I'd put these guys. So don't, they're in the top 100. I'm counting them down because it's a way to do it, but it was really good. And it was supposed to end on opening day, but then baseball, and then we didn't have opening day. So then they sort of stretched it out. They didn't run it on weekends. And then he did a few here and there on on some favorite players of his. But anyway, I'm going to finish reading it here in the next month or so. It's been really fun. So to read that. So hopefully you guys get to read it sometime. I'll send you the link from the app that says you can get on and read free for a while. And you just search Joe Poznansky on there, and then you can set him to follow. So I just go to the place where I follow him on the app every day, and it comes up and all his stories, and then I just sort of pick off the next one. So I want to cheat ahead. I want to read the Hank Aaron one, right, or whatever, but I'm making myself read them in order. So it's been fun. I read Lefty Grove yesterday. So Lefty Grove may be the best pitcher ever, but who knows? So anyway, pretty interesting stuff. So, all right, Chris, we appreciate you doing this with us, man.
Thanks for having me on.
It's been fun.
Thanks, Chris.
Talk a little baseball. So I'll get this posted here probably tonight and get this thing up and rolling. So
you can cut out all the Pittsburgh talk in the middle. Keep the other.
We'll bleep it. Every time Chris talks, beep. When we finish this show, we always finish and say, go Reds. So I'm going to count it down to say, go Reds. And Chris, you're welcome to say anything you want.
Where's that leave button at?
Huh?
Where's that leave button at?
The leave button on Zoom. Going to leave meeting. So, all right. Well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to next time we get together, get Kim back in here and maybe John too. But appreciate you joining us this time. And
it's fun.
It was fun. Good to talk baseball when we don't have it to watch. So at least we got to talk it a little bit. So, all right, Tom, you ready?
I'm ready.
We always say 1, 2, 3. Go Red.